How's it going? How we doing? Everyone still alive out there? Let's go. So we're talking about questions. Questions are how you get the sale, and questions are super important. The biggest thing, though, from a client's perspective, is you need to make sure that they know your questions are coming from a good place. So what do I mean? Two things: clarity and transparency. And this is from the start of the conversation. From when you started off, you're identifying who you are and that you're there to help. Because if you're there asking questions and they think you're just trying to get something out of them or they don't trust you, your questions don't mean all that much, right? The other thing is the transparency. Transparency is going through the process, explaining it, as well as asking those questions that further the sale. Now, when you're going through your questions, creating your questions, there's multiple ways to ask them. The biggest thing that you always want to trace it back to is what answer are you trying to get from those questions? Every question you ask is to frame the sale, to frame helping out the client, getting them from no coverage, nothing for their family, to that coverage in place, knowing their family is protected. So whenever you're basing those questions, whenever you're thinking, what should I ask now? Always think, what do I want to hear from them? What do I want them to say so I know where to take this thing next? And as long as you're always setting up your questions like that, you will always get the answers that you're looking for to help them. Thank you. I'll hand it over to Ryan.
Awesome job, brother. Hey everyone, I just want to start by saying thank you to everybody who put this event on. These take a lot of work and they're super impactful. So I just want to say I appreciate you guys, Grady, Andrew, Sean, for doing this for all of us. So I'm going to start by talking about asking intentional questions to close the sale. So a lot of us read a script, right? Which that's the roadmap to close the sale, which is important, but there are some questions that you should be asking that can't necessarily be scripted that are going to help you close at a higher level. So we have to remember this is an emotional sale, not a transactional one. So instead of telling the clients why they need life insurance policy, we want to ask them thought-provoking questions and tie-down questions that are going to get them to come to the realization that they need to get life insurance. We want them to picture in their mind exactly what is going to happen if they don't get a policy in place. So here's a few questions that I like to ask clients. The first question I ask is, if something happened to you tomorrow and you didn't make it home tonight, what would that look like for your family? This immediately paints a picture in the client's mind. They begin visualizing the hardship, the emotion, the pain, and the loss. This takes the conversation from being something much more transactional, and it shifts it into something much more personal. At this point, I let the client speak, and they give away all of their pain points. And then we use that information with a consultative approach to close the sale. The second question I like to ask is, who would be financially impacted the most if you were to pass away, right? And of course, that's their beneficiary. So I like to get the beneficiary's name as early on as possible in the call, and then I use their name over and over and over throughout the call to get to make it more personal. The more personal that we make it, the more of an emotional response the client will have and the higher likelihood that they're going to move forward. The third question is, wouldn't you agree it makes sense to put something in place to protect your daughter so that she doesn't get left in a situation where she can't afford to keep the home? I love this question because it gets the client on the same page. It gets them to agree that they need something in place. The key is making sure that you know the client's entire financial and medical situation so we can establish exactly what will happen in the event that they don't have coverage in place. After you ask this question, you want to build value in the product, pitch your 3 options, and go in for the close. The last question is, if I can find you something that's both affordable and covers your family's needs, is there any reason why you wouldn't want to put something in place today? This is really more of a soft close that's going to get you to the real close. I love this question because if the client says no, like obviously we're going to close it down, right? But if they don't, the client's going to give you whatever their real objection is, and it allows us to overcome that early on in the call. So at the end of the day, guys, our job isn't just about getting the sale. It's about helping people make the most important financial decision, one of the most important financial decisions of their lives and their families' lives. We do that by not by pushing them, but by guiding them through the conversation with empathy, intention, and by asking the right questions. This is going to build trust, and because it shows that we're actively listening to them and that we actually care. So when you're on a call, don't just read the script. Be present, be intentional. Don't just ask questions, ask the right questions. Thank you.